I mean, the music kind of does make you want to go do stuff. But welcome back.
Did you feel like there was a little pressure by Marcus to get this thing going?
I mean, I think so. He just hit the
Guy
hit the
finally
intro.
wants to quarterback this thing. Congratulations.
Well, welcome back, aggressively healthy followers. It's a pleasure to be with you as always, Mike Ranfone, Marco Lujic. I heard in podcasts it's good to announce yourself or say your name a bunch. So
Marcus, what's your last name?
Carry on.
Carry on. That's right.
Carry on. So the other thing is, I guess you at the end of the podcast, some people say like us, follow us.
Yeah.
So we'll say that, but hopefully you do like what you're hearing. So
hopefully that's implied.
Quick. Well, let's just get straight into something that I've been wanting to talk about. So I was recently at a local hair salon, and it's a female run.
They did that for you?
For me, yeah. They didn't cut my hair. This is not a plug for them. So it's mostly women. And we get in there, it's a little after hours, one of my kids getting their hair cut. So I walk in and I haven't seen the ladies in a while. One of them of which I know kind of well. I used to know better, but we've lost connection with touch. So we started chatting about what I'm doing. And the end result of that conversation turned into her saying to me that she would never really come see me as a physician because I'm a guy. Right? And then she said to me, how do you know how I feel? So it took me down this road of empathy. But then the thing that really killed me at the end of it, and this is a psychological issue I always have with these statements, is she said, well, you're too expensive. Right? Now, we are not more than actually a pretty cheap car loan, cell phone bill, cable TV bill, whatever. So I just registered that as she just didn't really know. But to me, two things kind of stuck out that I want to bring to light. One is, what is the actual value of your health, right? If you're a female and she said, I'm too expensive, sitting in a salon that costs $200 an hour to get your hair done, colored, and she has no problem taking money from women to do that, which most likely the products that they're putting on people's hair isn't actually helping their health. It's just helping their image for a couple of days. What's the value she puts on her own health if she thinks something like that? And then said how miserable she is throughout this perimenopause process, but the alcohol and everything else isn't helping her. And then the last thing is the empathy situation, which sympathy and empathy are two different things, right? So sympathy is I can feel that because I went through it. Empathy is more I think I know how you feel, but I've never been through it, but I can reason with that. And if we're all on this human thing where we're all individuals, right, then how can even a woman feel like another woman did? Because really, you can't. So the commentary to me was shocking because we are women's health advocates. I mean, our entire being is, for me, try to get to the
50%
women.
50% of
women
we work with are women.
Right. How do you, in the training world, experience that? Have you had that kind of happen to you as well?
I have fortunately not really had that experience. Some of my best clients are women. Now, I think it's if we break down the demographics and we just bucket them male, female, it's more what is their mindset?
Right.
What are their values? And is there actually alignment, underneath that surface level of a category?
Right.
So type A, people who want to achieve things, people that will be coachable, people that, again, have similar values, and maybe we'll go back and redefine or define value for the end user or the listener. But being a male coaching a female has really not been an issue ever.
Right.
And now I started in collegiate sports, don't forget, where there was not many female strength and conditioning coaches.
Right.
So, and a lot of the women at that point never had a female coach for their sport.
Right.
So they were just used to being coached by men. Now, I also think it's tremendous that there's more females in coaching and leadership positions, whether it be in sport or in strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
So it's still, but I would say on the flip side of that, it's less likely that a male would grow up playing sports or doing strength and conditioning being influenced by a female coach.
Right.
Right. So some of the women that I've worked with at this point who have played sports, being coached by a man is no big deal.
Yeah, they're used to it.
However, there is obviously a different layer of sensitivity when you enter the medical, like pure medical realm.
Right.
And maybe that's what they're alluding to, but like, correct me if I'm wrong. What's the breakdown of male, female OBs?
Yeah, I mean,
Like, I don't.
I don't know the actual numbers on that. That'd be good, interesting to look into. But my overall take on it was like, how much stuff does that human do in a day that interacts with a guy who made it? Like if she gets on a plane, there's probably a guy somewhere in that situation on the assembly line that put together something on that plane. So you're trusting your entire life on the backs of potentially guys that worked on things you're using, like your car, your plane, whatever it wants to be. So then I just don't see how you can fight with somebody who's arguing in favor of you against a medical system that has had you trapped. So the only reason and the only way I could reason that out was to think, well, she is perimenopausal, going through these symptoms she was telling me, hot flashes, anxiety, all of this. So I then have to assume she's not thinking appropriately because she is emotional about it. And it got me to this analogy, like if you took a random person and just stuck them in a psych ward, right, and locked the door and left them in there for a while, they're probably going to start having thoughts of insanity, right, like psychosis. You're trapped, you don't know where to go. The minute you start arguing with anything that any of the supervisors have to say, you get medicated, and you kind of get stuck in this rut. And perimenopause and menopause is the same thing, right? So your supervisors, up until the time you get to that stage, was your OB and your pediatrician and your PCP. And they've kept you in this world where it's like, oh, women's health, here's what we're doing, here's what we're doing, here's what we're doing. Really delivering nothing, right? Because at the end of the day, like if they deliver your baby, that's an interventional thing, fine. But otherwise, day-to-day maintenance is like a physical anatomic check of the vagina, right? And then it's pap smears, and then it's more of a superficial look. They never really do random uterine ultrasounds, ovarian ultrasounds. There's not a whole lot of investigation into hormones, hormone health, interaction with belly fat, interaction with cortisol, because I know they just don't do it. I see it. And then you get to this time frame where these protectors, supposed protectors of your life, throughout the time you've known them on your side, when really, they've just been making sure you're not getting sick, all of a sudden tell you, yeah, what you're feeling is normal. Like, it's not normal. The female feels terrible. They don't feel good, but they're being told it's normal by this person that was there to protect them. And it's almost like the psych ward thing. Like the more you say you feel abnormal and the more they tell you, no, that's normal, the crazier you feel. And I have a lot of these women that come sit in my office and they're just like, I feel like I'm the crazy one. Because I'm sitting in my OB's office every day telling them how I feel. And they're telling me that that's normal. But this can't be normal. How do we break that trend? Because in the exercise world, that broke, right? Like you just gave a good example. We've neutralized that emotional response to male coaching, female coaching, and we've started getting more women into that coaching arena. And I do see more women coming into this arena, but it doesn't feel like there's such a strong push because definitely the local flavor in Connecticut around where we are in Hamden, most of, and I would say 90 plus of the OBs hate any sort of hormone replacement or menopausal treatment. They just don't like it because they think it causes cancer. How do we recruit them, or how do we get them to be so willing to think outside the box of what they've learned to start to help women?
You brought up a couple interesting things about just how environment plays a role in people's perspective, or even self-assessment, right? So like you put someone in an insane asylum that's not insane, they go insane.
Yeah.
I remember taking my my fourth year abnormal psychology, and we had to sign a waiver that if we had any negative, or we started to believe that like when we were looking at like the diagnostics of say someone depressed, you start to convince yourself you're depressed,
right?
By like, and everyone, like depression isn't like, it's an ebb and flow. My point is if you're met with that on a constant or consistent basis,
right,
it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that you're sick, you're abnormal, But everyone is telling you that in the medical world, but no one's giving you a solution to it. Right. So part of it is actually getting into an environment and being exposed to alternative thinking,
Right.
so that it allows you to change your perspective on like what your current state is.
Yeah.
And some of it, like think about a lot of the medical practices are about events or episodes.
Yeah.
Not many are about processes.
Right.
And if you look at what you do, you look how that runs parallel to us. We're
Right.
all about process.
That's right.
We're always looking at inputs. We're always looking at the levers we can pull or the things we
Yep.
can influence so that the outcome measure becomes tangible.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, when someone says, I feel great, we use numbers as back-end confirmations of that subjective well-being.
Right.
Rather than the opposite. It's like, oh, you're normal. Your blood tells me you're normal.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel great. Well, here's what your blood work. So
Right.
it's the back-end confirmation of it. It's not dictating how you should feel.
Yeah, it's so odd though. It's just they've beaten themselves into a corner where it's like we've done something the old way for so long that transition now it's almost like they're just embarrassed to admit it, right? Like it's like they don't want to say, "All right, guys, sorry, we didn't realize that was bad, but now we can change it." And I think that's part of like growing up.
Yeah.
So I'd almost ask the OBGYN community, like, grow up, like, get mature. It's okay to say, like, I fucked up. We messed up, right? Now, in medical legal world, if you withhold care from somebody, that could be a suable offense, right? And I don't think it's at that point because I don't think we can prove that OBGYN caused the death of women over the past 60 years beyond menopause. Like, that's a hard thing to prove. I mean, I think I could, but at this point in time, like, let's have a dialogue. I've asked a million times. I would love for any OB to come in and discuss with us or see what we do, because at the end of the day, like, I have these female clients that are doing so well that I think if you sat and actually talked with them, right? And now they say to me, not every woman should be on hormone replacement. Yeah, no shit. But at least you should offer it to every woman. Right?
Yeah.
Like every human should have the right to try to get a breath in. And if they can't, they can't, but at least give them the offer.
Well, to that statement, not every woman should be, but how come no one is based on your care?
Yeah. And
like that. So that's just the opposite of what you're actually saying.
It's crazy. And to bring this full circle, how like utterly perverse the association is. That woman said to me, "You're too expensive," which then puts me into this like luxury category. And the sad thing is, the only way we can get away with offering help to any woman out there is to make it a luxury item. And the only reason we have to do that, people, is because your insurance companies and your regular doctors will not even entertain the treatment because they're being told they're not going to get paid. So no shit, you're not going to do it if you're not going to get paid. Now, just like you get a person in a psych class to have a false belief of something they're reading, which makes them almost delirious, if you have an insurance company and a hospital system telling a doctor, we're not going to reimburse you for that, we're not going to reimburse you for that, what do you think that doctor is going to do? They're going to start believing that.
Yeah, right.
So their treatment protocols are driven off a belief of foundational medicine based purely on a billing platform. I will do a couple Instagram posts today on an article in a general surgery newsletter I still get. And the topic was elective salpingophractomy. So essentially taking the fallopian tubes out of a woman electively during another operation. So say you have to have your gallbladder out, we take your fallopian tubes out too, to prevent fallopian tube cancer.
What's the incidence of that?
It's just insanity talk. Like it's insanity talk that we have no idea what the root cause of it is. We have no idea what a preventative measure is. We have no idea what might start that from happening. But you know what our solution is? Oh, well, we're taking your gallbladder out, and I quote from the article. Let me see where I can get to this because it's amazing. And I quote from the article a piece of information that says, the question is, how do we do this during routine surgeries like gallbladder removal or hernia repair? Surgery for prevention isn't something we always talk about, but in this case, we have real opportunity to prevent cancer before it starts. With just a few extra minutes of surgical time, it's not experimental. So just think, That doctor, who's a male and a female on their cover article, there's one associated, but that's the guy talking, thinks that it's a reasonable thing just while they're in your belly with metal instruments while you're under anesthesia for an operation that is not a normal situation, that in the passive moment of that experience, they'll just take your fallopian tubes out. All right. So enough on women's health.
But do they have to agree to that?
I do not know the details, but I will
Like,
read.
who makes the judgment call that you should have it, and then who agrees to it?
Yeah, I think it must be the patient and that doctor. That's it. But here's the craziest part. Right.
Yeah.
We'll go back to that. The best is Dr. Stone is currently working with the CDC to address billing and coding issues surrounding prophylactic salpingectomy. Final statement of the entire article. So think about it. That entire article went through science and complete stupidity. Fine. The end result was we will not do this until we speak with the CDC about coding
And billing.
and billing. Nothing to do with medical outcome, nothing to do with result, nothing to do with hormonal control, nothing to do with the fact that it's a female patient, nothing to do with biology, physiology, nothing, except once we figure out the billing code, and I'll guarantee you it's going to happen, we'll follow this closely, I'm on it, they're going to start doing it constantly. So,
Tremendous upsell.
tremendous upsell. It is amazing if you sell sickness, how you can even upsell more sickness. Here,
Yeah.
let's make you
Fear,
less
right?
of what
Like,
you are.
We have no idea if you're a candidate for this cancer, but let's just do this
Let's do
anyways.
it. There's no real genetic markers. We have no screening tools, but you know what?
Since we're in there.
We'll take it out. And hey, guys, by the way, next time we're fixing your hernias, I'm just going to remove a bunch of stuff from your testicles. No problem. Because I think like the risk of testicular cancer, who knows, but we might as well take them out.
Yeah.
Right. Makes sense. So women's health topics, we clearly talk about plenty, but let's get on to the men a little bit, right? And we do, sorry guys, we kind of leave you out a little bit. I know it sounds odd because everybody I think looks at us and they're just like, oh man,
Yeah,
but
right.
we end up talking about women's health constantly. But a couple of things about men's health. And last week episode, we did a huge kind of expose on certain avatars of guys that might be struggling with certain things. And we got some questions back. So one of the big things, and take this from an exercise nutrition protocol too, and even before we get into that, I do have one question. I just got a text actually today from a guy, been working out for a while, the scale isn't changing. And his paragraph of statement to me was, well, I'm doing cardio twice a day, I'm lifting weights 5 times a week, I'm eating less calories than I should consume. Why is the scale not moving as fast as I think it should be? What do you think?
Well, a couple different reasons. It depends on how early in the process he's in. And I don't know if he's on TRT, but obviously when you start TRT, there is weight gain and much of it is just water retention,
Yep.
right? So you have this kind of trade-off of going on a exogenous source of testosterone and then some weight gain,
Yep.
which is actually really beneficial because it's only in your muscles, which make your muscles
Bigger.
healthier and
Yeah.
but then if they weren't on TRT and they just started this new training routine and nutrition, it takes a little time for your body to actually understand what's going on, because any amount of change is going to be somewhat of a perceived stressor or a threat. So that might mean that you're getting up earlier than your normal wake up time. You are exerting yourself more. So again, a lot of this comes down to water retention, because as part of the stress response, your muscles and your body will hold water.
Right.
Now, if you're also working out for the first time in a long time, you might have some soreness.
Right.
That soreness will also hold a little bit more fluid and edema.
Yeah.
So it might inflate the scale a little bit. The other aspect of new nutrition, like your gut hasn't seen broccoli in a long time.
Yeah.
So it's trying to figure out, what is this unique source of vitamins and
Right,
minerals and
right.
fiber, and I don't know what to do with it. So there might be some GI duress in the beginning.
Yeah.
It also might mean that your meal patterning is different. Let's say you're doing intermittent fasting, so you're not consuming anything until 4:00 in the afternoon, and you're eating 2,000 calories all at once.
Yeah.
So you're actually weighing yourself in the morning with more food. You
Yeah.
know, that extra 1.5 pounds of food that you ate at night
Weighed in.
That's what you're seeing on the scale. So there's a bunch of different variables that contribute to the scale not moving.
Yep.
And that's why we of course use the scale, but we also use other measures to have an understanding if progress is being made. So if that person's, let's say his bench press went up 20 pounds in 2 weeks, well, that's not because of fat, So like there's obviously some neural or biological processes that are going on that are advantageous to training.
Right.
And then at some point, like we have to adjust for calories. Maybe we do you're still, even though you're eating less, it's still more than you actually need to lose weight.
Right.
So then we have to adjust that, or where those nutrition components are coming from. Maybe we have to, dial up the carbs and decrease fat.
Right.
Maybe your accuracy of measuring is. So there's a lot of different things that we have to kind of parse through. But typically, like we talked about earlier, if the process that you're doing is better than what you were doing, then it's just a function of time to get the result that you want.
Yeah.
And that's why we always talk about what are the leading indicators, and those are all the process-driven stuff like sleep, hydration, working out, step count, all that stuff. And then there's lagging indicators, right? Your weight.
Right.
Your weight is going to catch up to the process.
Yeah.
It's no different than if you put me on some kind of medication. Does it happen overnight? That's why you test in 3 months. Let's make sure that it's moving in the right direction. So in the blood work world, every 3 months, you're getting a snapshot of lagging indicators.
Yeah. Now, what's your take on overtraining? So he's a bigger guy, like built. He's not obese. He's just a bigger human. He's like 6'1"-ish, around 220 pounds or so. But then he started doing a lot of cardio.
Yeah.
Right. So he's just cardio multiple times a day. What's your take on that?
One of the things that I see a lot with people that are in this, like, nothing's working is like, well, are you just overtraining?
Yeah.
Because you're in this constant state of almost like a constant chronic stress-induced state where your body doesn't really settle down. The body's also really good at down-regulating activity outside of weight room. So let's say you ramp up your weight room activities or your cardio activities twofold.
Yeah.
The body will try to down-regulate metabolic processes by maybe you're not walking as much, maybe you're not fiddling as much, maybe you're not sleeping as well. So all these other things that have a negative consequence on the goal of losing weight.
Right.
And then people get stuck in this routine of just accumulating reps or miles or volume that really isn't contributing to the positive outcome that you're leveraging the tool in the first place. And then you just get a disproportional amount of downside. And that's like the classic person who, like an endurance athlete that runs 100 miles a week and looks the same, feels the same, their performance never gets better.
Right.
It's because they're doing a bunch of stuff that's not helping.
Yeah.
And they're never coming back to baseline, and even more so, never improving baseline numbers.
Yeah. And I always find whenever I talk to people about these things and their nutrition, it seems like the hardest macronutrient, which macronutrients are like protein, fats, and carbs. It seems like the hardest one to track to a T is fat.
Yeah.
And it's so overwhelmingly off all the time because people even are like, well, I eat a lean cut of beef. But if you actually take a lean cut of beef and weigh it and look at the grams of fat, it's really high. And then it's hard to judge because fat, you don't need a ton. So when you're off by 10, 20, 30 grams, you might be off by like 50 or 75% of your daily needs.
Yeah.
Whereas in the carb protein world, it's very different. And we've said this before, like when you eat a protein, it takes a lot of effort for your body to use it. So you have to burn calories just to use it. If you eat a carb, it takes a little less energy, but it still takes a bunch of energy to use it. And then if you eat a fat, your body just takes it, and if it doesn't need it, it just stores it.
Yeah.
Right? So that 50% off on a day instantly bought you another bunch of fat on your body, right? And now you got to overwork with a deficit on the next day. And I think the fat is that macronutrient that really gets caught up. In your brain, I know there's no way to really do this because we need them all, but what would be your lineup of like macronutrients for the average guy? I don't really know what I'm doing right now. I'm stuck in this spot.
Yeah.
I don't go to the gym where somebody can help me do what I got to do. I don't really know what I'm doing training. What do you think the best way for them to look at their food list is, and how could they start to even play the macronutrient game from the outside?
It's a very common question of like, what do I eat?
Yeah,
I don't have any real knowledge about what's good. I think I know what healthy looks like.
right.
But from a practical application standpoint, people are still lost.
Yeah.
Right. So we talked about macros, typically just identifying things they already like to eat within that framework. So if you said, hey, or I asked, hey, what's your favorite protein source?
Right.
And they say, well, I like eggs. I like yogurt. I like chicken breast. It's
Yeah.
like, great. So let's make sure that we get the leanest type of chicken breast.
Right.
So let's just say per serving, it's under 1 gram of fat or 2 grams of fat. Let's go 0% Greek yogurt.
Yeah.
Again, eliminating fat, because to your point, it's the easiest macronutrient to overconsume.
Yeah.
And it's the hardest one to get right from a measuring standpoint with accuracy and precision.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just by eliminating that or minimizing the effect of extra fat in your diet will do wonders.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then with the eggs, can we eat egg whites?
Yeah.
Again, just eliminate the fat source. And I'm not saying that fat is bad or doesn't have positive properties. From a practical standpoint, let's make sure that your protein source is pretty much 99% protein source.
Right.
Now we look at, let's say, carbohydrate sources, and he says, I like bread, this and that. So we just go through the list of things that he can and will eat.
Yeah.
And try to make sure that that framework of macronutrient is something that he has a very clear picture of that he can eat.
Right.
So whether it's rice or apples or sweet potatoes, those are your carbs. And then fat, I usually have the smallest amount of options. It's either some kind of oil, because that's actually fairly easy to measure,
Yep.
right? A teaspoon, a tablespoon, or whatever
Right.
else, or maybe butter. God forbid you eat butter, you can.
Right.
It's just like, how much can you eat?
Yeah.
And then they're actually surprised by how much food that they can consume, because they're eating sources that have an abundance of protein,
Yeah.
and hopefully something with a high fiber content.
Yeah.
Because if you look, if the U.S. population just addressed protein needs and fiber content,
Yeah.
almost everything goes away by default.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get 30 grams of fiber through Sour Patch Kids.
Yeah.
You're just not. You're not. I don't
Right.
even know if there's any fiber in Sour Patch
Yeah,
Kids.
none.
But like, you cannot, it's very difficult then to overconsume on some of these food items,
Yeah.
meaning that you're not going to be in a hypercaloric state,
Right.
right? So that's how I try to make sure that from a practical standpoint, they can execute the plan.
Yeah.
Those are the processes, those are the choices, just can you execute the plan?
Right.
So that's what I try to accomplish through some of the, the resources that we develop, as well as the guidance or coaching about nutrition specifically.
Yeah, because it's a weird thing with nutrition, because everybody eats, right? Like, so to survive, you need to eat and breathe. Those are the only two things. You don't need to know algebra. You don't need to know chemistry. You don't need to know world history. You need to know how to eat. I do not understand why we do not teach our kids how to eat. Like, there's no eating curriculum. And if you look at the world today, we are failing the class of nutrition. Like, so much so that we have a huge population of obesity, and we have a huge population of people starving to death, dying from not having food.
Yeah.
So in a world with that and this, obesity and starving, whoever's managing the nutritional world out there is doing a terrible, terrible job. But half the problem is, even at like my kids' school, and I love the place, I love their teachers, whatever, but it's rare you find a teacher that's like super fit, right? And I'm not saying they're all overweight or whatever, but like at the end of the day, if I'm at home teaching my kid about nutrition and fitness and like showing them someone who's driven by that, and then they go sit in a classroom with somebody who's like a mush and who has no interest in and is always tired and cranky and like, wow, I just can't wait to go home and take a nap.
Yeah.
How many times do you hear that? Like, imagine you're sitting in front of that teacher and all they want to do is go take a nap. Like, that means you're not as interesting as you should be to them. They're not as interested in telling you what the hell they should be doing.
Yeah.
They don't really like their job, right? And that's not a great example. But we're teaching the wrong nutritional lifestyle type things, I think, in a lot of areas. So how do we like re-educate that? Because one of the questions I have here that we're going to get into is why are so many men in their 40s and 50s suffering from low energy, right? Now, we'll talk about the hormones, and that's no doubt. But I think you build habits through life, right? How do we encounter that? How do we kind of take that challenge on? And the medical challenge against OB and PCP, I'm okay with. Like, I know who I'm fighting against. I know what we're going against. I know the school of thought they come from because I wasted a bunch of years behind the front lines learning about what I needed to kind of attack, right? And that worked out all well. But I don't know behind the front lines of what's going on in schools for nutrition. I do know a couple things. I know it's not taught. And I know when I go to the school cafeterias, if we went and visited school cafeterias across the state, I will guarantee with a camera we could crush their souls, right? Because it is insane what I hear coming home from my kids about what they eat at school. What's your version, or what would be your vision with kind of like making that something we can approach so that by the time these men are 40 and 50, we're not worrying about the foundational principles of health being eating and movement. We can now get into the details, but I don't know where that starts.
We've talked loosely about, because it's hard to expect like those life skills to be transferred from a institution or an environment that has a very deliberate curriculum about education.
Right.
Because education is about really advancing education, nothing else.
Right.
So first grade is about getting into second grade. Middle school is about getting into high school. High school is about getting into college. College is not like, you know what I mean? So it's so singularly focused on the next piece of education.
Yeah.
And education might typically not have anything to do with how you're going to live your life.
Right.
So we can't really expect those lessons or those learnings to be had there.
Right.
Especially if it's been such a disparity of when this was actually taught to who's teaching the next generation. You know what I mean? It's been lost for years.
Right.
And you can kind of look at just like, and we go through this struggle ourselves, so I'm not trying to be condescending, but the family unit enjoying a family dinner is less likely to occur right now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but growing up, like 6 o'clock was supper.
And you had to sit down.
And you sat down and like, but there was no band practice to soccer practice to gymnastics. Like it was everything's scattered now. Everyone's got a schedule. Both parents typically work, so there is really no continuity across teaching or being exposed to an environment where we're not under stress. We're going to sit down for an hour. You're going to smell the food cooking while you're doing your homework. You know what I mean? Like there's none of, at least not in my house, at least not 7 days a week.
No.
So there is this, we need to subsidize these lessons now, which means parents have to take more ownership. They have to take the position of leadership to teach their kids what they want. Yeah. The problem is most parents at this point don't know how to do it for themselves.
Right.
Hence, you can look at the obesity rates, the chronic illness rates, all this stuff. So it's like, what are they leaving behind? Because you can't just expect an 8-year-old to know this stuff.
No, and
nor can you expect a 38-year-old now to know this stuff.
Right, and the 40s, 50s, and 60s that are alive right now, that age group, we kind of grew up in this transitional zone because I remember there weren't really a lot of options to eat out except for either super duper fancy, like very niche restaurants, or fast food started becoming a thing.
Yeah.
I don't remember when McDonald's started, but like, was it the 70s or something? I don't know.
Oh, no, it was back in the 50s.
50s, but whatever the case may be, all of these places started.
That was it.
That was it.
And McDonald's was a treat.
That's what I mean. And it was something that then became like regular. And then it became something where, eating is not important enough for us to sit down for 30 or 45 minutes. Let's just grab something on the go. So then you've developed this adult population of people that are so used to not respecting the hour or half hour of time you should take to sit, eat slow, digest, let it kind of sit in your body till you adjust to that feeling of being full so you don't overeat. Like all of these techniques that now we just secondhand pass it along to our kids because we have developed this thing where eating is not a respectable thing. We need to take advantage of that time to use it wisely, right? We just look at it as, it's just something I do passively. And
Well, it's eating has become synonymous with consumption.
right.
And we don't vet what we eat
No.
like we used to. We don't look at what our food sources are.
Right.
We don't practice these things of like, we have an hour to eat, not 7 minutes.
Yep.
And then we're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So part of it is the deliberate practice of these things.
Yeah.
So that they don't have to be necessarily learned later on.
Yeah.
But that's just how you behave.
Right.
With
right.
food.
With food.
So the whole relationship with food has changed drastically over the last 20 years.
So that leads into one of the questions. Why are so many men in their 40s and 50s suffering from low energy? So we kind of do this whole thing where we've past times defined age as chronologic. So we just said, well, time has passed, and with time passing as the only variable we look at, whatever happens in your health should happen according to that timeline, right? So the variability is only time. There's nothing to do with like how you can control your health relative to that time. It's just, well, this is going to happen. And part of it, part of what happens in that time frame is hormonal decreases, and your endocrine system doesn't work as well as it should. So we start to see this thing called andropause, right? Where men go through a declining testosterone. Do you see in the gym environment things that you can do to help boost that? And then I could comment on in the medical environment how we can help that too.
Well, I like how you set that up where we're talking about some stuff that's going on internally.
Yeah.
And usually those processes are occurring round the clock for decades and decades. And it isn't to the point where someone's at a low point where they're like, I cannot avoid how I feel anymore.
Right.
Typical male response. It's like, my ankle has hurt for 7 years and now I'm going to go see the doctor. But something not as overt or as troublesome as like, I don't think I have enough energy.
Right.
Or my energy is decreasing, because it is kind of subjective. I feel good one day, I feel, and that's usually what I get when I meet someone.
Yeah.
But now it's to the point where it's either affecting their work, which is usually like, I can't keep up with the younger guys in my firm or whatever it may be. Or I don't feel like I can play with my kids like the same.
Yeah.
I'm, from a libido standpoint, like however you want to use energy,
Yeah.
whether it's, professional, sexual, or just,
Yeah.
whatever, they're noticing a distinct difference in the energy that they can output.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, how long have you felt this? Well, I've felt off for 3 years, 5 years, whatever. But now it's unavoidable. And so then we look at some of the things that could contribute from a lifestyle standpoint that we know will have a consequence on your hormonal profile. So are you stressed out all the time? Do you sleep well? Do you eat micronutrient dense food?
Right.
Do you train? Like people think, oh, I don't have enough energy to train. It's like funny, the more you train, the more energy you get.
Right.
Because you also prioritize certain things. It's a cornerstone habit for a reason. But if they're not doing resistance training, their cardiovascular fitness is in the shitter. They're not eating well. They're drinking too much or anything else. They don't have good sleep patterns.
Yeah.
They can't manage their stress, and their relationships have kind of gone sideways, whether that's work, relationship, or kids.
Yeah.
All of this is just a mounting stressor. And at the end of the day, it's like you're basically succumbing to the lifestyle that you have.
Yeah.
Therefore, a lifestyle fix probably is very appropriate.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yes, if you're overweight and your testosterone's low, we could give you more testosterone. However, are we now just treating a symptom, which is basically what medical practices typically want to do?
Right.
Well, like, oh, this is the thing, we'll just give you more of it.
Yeah.
But it's not fixing all the other things. And we admittedly try to exhaust all other options before we do intervene with a medical fix.
Yeah, so much so that a lot of people I will actually deny treatment. Like sometimes if you have no interest in the lifestyle change, that's not really fun for any of us, right?
Yeah.
Because part of it is like if you want to drive the race car, you got to know how to use the gas, the brake, you got to know how to use the clutch, you got to know how to use your mirror. Like you have to know the entire vehicle. But if I just come put high octane fuel in your, 35-year-old pickup, that's not really going to do that pickup much help.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll blow the engine up even, right?
Yeah, right.
But part of the buy-in is the entire package. Now then people will say, not to get down a different road, but people will be like, well, you're just trying to sell us on everything. It's like, well, yeah, right.
But that's the care.
I'm trying to get you
Right.
healthy. You know what I mean? Like, yes, to actually play golf, you need to swing, you need to have a ball, and you need to have clubs. Like, you don't go join a golf club and be like, I don't have balls.
Yeah.
I'm not playing golf. I'm just here to park my car. Like, what are you talking about? If you walk into a preventative healthcare, aggressively healthy mission statement at
Yeah.
foundational level, you have to realize, like, part of the deal is the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Now, a little off topic, but you said something pretty peculiar to me. It stuck with me in the car. I think it was yesterday, where we were talking about something. Maybe it was a couple days ago. You said, like, working out to you isn't even a thing anymore. Right now, if I said to somebody on the street, "Do you think Mike Ranfone thinks about working out?" They'd probably say, like, all day. That guy, all he does is live in the gym.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you say to me out loud, like, I don't even really consider going to the gym a thing anymore. Like, I just go, it's working out, whatever. Because you have built it so deep in your routine, it's like breathing.
Mm.
How do you get to that, like, mindset? Because you have a lot going on in your life. You have a ton of things happening. You're in your 40s. You know, at some point in your life, maybe you said to yourself, oh, I'm not feeling so great, whatever. Like, how do you then transition into that where it just becomes part of your life?
Yeah. There's a time function and maybe an identity component. Being an athlete, like if you were a football player in the 90s and you weren't in the weight room, you weren't really a football player.
Right.
Like, so culturally, I was kind of conditioned to think that. There's another way of looking at it more objectively about how you learn things in general. And there's this spectrum of incompetence to competence, unconscious to, or conscious to unconscious, right?
Right.
So in the beginning, no matter if you start, whatever you start new, you're starting at a level called unconscious incompetence, meaning you just don't know you're bad at something.
Yeah.
So when you start playing the guitar, you're like, oh my God, I'm terrible.
Yeah.
Like you see, Led Zeppelin rip and you're like, well, I can't do that.
Right.
But then you become consciously aware of your incompetence.
Yeah.
So now I can fix the things. Like I didn't know how bad I was. Now I know. Now
Yeah.
I can address it. The next stage, the third stage, is being consciously competent, meaning you have to think about what you're doing to be successful.
Yeah.
And then the ultimate stage of, expression of anything, any trait or any skill is unconscious competence.
Yeah.
So you can think of like a Michael Jordan doesn't have to think about shooting a fadeaway shot in his 30th year of existence
Yeah.
to be freaking amazing.
Yeah.
So there is a level of that you acquire through time and willingness and whatever. But like I would ask someone like, when was the last time you thought about brushing your teeth?
Yeah.
But you don't think about
you
it.
just do
But
it.
remember how you got there?
Yeah.
Your parents told you nonstop twice a day for 20 years.
And you fought it.
Did you brush your teeth? Did you
Yeah,
brush your
yeah.
teeth? And then one day they just brush their teeth because
Yeah.
it's bedtime.
Yeah.
And like when I wake up, I come to the gym. That's it.
Yeah.
And hopefully I still get value out of what I do, but I don't have to, it doesn't take a lot of mental horsepower to do what I do.
Right. And it's an interesting thing also in the professional world, like as now a business owner and in a position to like have employees under me, it behooves me to have an employee that's like not physically fit. And I'll say it out loud. I'm not looking for like a physique that's like a runway model type thing.
Jaw dropping.
I'm not talking about that world of aesthetic. I'm talking somebody who like shows me that they get up, they want to exercise, they have interest in healthcare. During the hours of business, I am fully promoting working out. Like, I don't know how, I always tie it to the healthcare world. Like, I remember there were CNAs, there were RNs, there were APRNs, there were doctors, there were anesthesiologists. There were just people in the hospital that were disgusting, like overweight, dirty, had an odor, like the whole deal. And they're in the healthcare world. Like if their employer went up to them and said, you're fired because of your lifestyle choices, like, I think that's reasonable. Right? It's just as bad to come in horrific cardiovascular shape with no endurance, with no muscle memory, with no muscle endurance in your hands or arms, and try to go operate on somebody underslept, overworked, rather than somebody who's in great shape who maybe had 3 beers before the operation, right? Like you have the exact same lack of skill. It's just one is completely lifestyle driven, one is exogenous and implemented. Now, we talk about testosterone a lot in men. It's in women too, but in men specifically, there's always a big connection between obesity and low T,
Yeah.
low testosterone. What can we do from the exercise nutrition end of it in terms of reducing those impacts on each other?
There is a fairly distinct relationship between inflammation, and I know that's a buzzword we can, parse down and really talk about that, but there's a very deliberate relationship between inflammation and testosterone production. Typically in the fact that like the more inflamed your body is and the more inflammatory markers you have, your testosterone production will be suppressed. Another thing that we know very clear through the data is that the more adipose tissue that you have, or fat tissue, whether that's adipose or visceral, that also creates more inflammation in the body systemically.
Yep.
So just by being overweight, specifically overweight from adipose and visceral tissue, your testosterone production is compromised.
Yep.
So it would make a lot of sense from a practical standpoint, instead of just putting a needle in your ass, lose some freaking weight.
Yeah.
Because even if you have to go on TRT, your body's ability to receive and respond to TRT goes up exponentially.
Right.
Again, another reason why we want you to do both. We don't want you to just do one thing, right? So if you can train correctly, eat appropriately, lose weight, specifically adipose tissue and visceral fat, your natural testosterone production will go up. And if you need TRT, that's also an option.
Right.
But you will get a better benefit, a better ROI on the same intervention. And we're always trying to make sure that the ROI is maximal.
That's right.
Right. So, and now you can also look at like cortisol production. Again, maybe it's a stress thing. And most people who are overstressed do not take care of themselves. We talked about the caregiver syndrome. People do so much for everyone else and try to please the world, but they don't do anything for themselves. And those people are typically underfed, undernourished, overweight, overstressed,
Right.
and also have plenty of inflammation, cortisol, and adipose tissue.
Yeah.
So if we can just, again, look at the processes that got you there and do the opposite,
Yeah.
you're in a way better place.
Way better.
And I think that's something that should be talked about, is that most people want to add another thing to their plate. Like their solution is, I got to do this other thing. And that's why people don't think they have time for stuff.
Right.
It's like, I got to do another thing. It's like, yes, you do. But that also means you have to get rid of 2 or 3 other things that don't help you.
Yeah. And you always say it's take your foot off the brake to allow the foot on the gas to actually work.
Yeah. I mean, and a type A personality is like, oh, I'm just going to slam on the gas. It's like, do me a favor. Before you do that, take your foot off the brake.
Yeah. It's a crazy.
It works better.
Yep. And we're all kind of driving around until you realize it with the emergency brake pulled.
Yeah.
The disconnect in the health world is so severe, though, because like if you are a guy or a girl or a man or a woman, whatever age we want to talk about, but in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and you go sit in front of any doctor and you tell them, traditional warning signs of aging, meaning biological aging, not chronological aging, you're asking somebody who doesn't even have the skill set or toolbox or knowledge of what you're telling them to analyze the system beyond where they think you should be feeling, right? So if my brain's ceiling of knowledge is that once you turn 40 or 50, you're just going to have happen whatever happens because of aging.
Yeah.
And my only thing to offer you when that happens is like, oh, I will fix your bone with a new bone, or I will fix your heart with a bypass, or I'll fix your liver with a new liver, or I will fix your kidneys with dialysis, or I can do surgery to repair your body. If my brain at that time frame shuts off in terms of analysis of biological aging, I'm done, because I can't offer you things that I don't even know are there.
Yeah. Well,
and the message was clear to me when like I spent, I did the whole thing before I even started coming here. I'd like go to the regular box gym. I'd eat, I'd drink, I'd do whatever I want to do. I'd go to the box gym. I was pretty strong. I felt okay. And then like nothing was changing. But my brain could only think to that level of knowledge where like I go to the gym, I lift a ton. I didn't even analyze what I was doing out of the gym.
yeah.
Right? I was just like, why is that not working how it should? I'm at a gym. I should be getting gain. I didn't even realize the world of nutritional analysis and micronutrient and macronutrient and timing of exercise and the type of programming you do with interval training and this and that. Like, I didn't even know that was there. That could impact what I was just blaming on, like, well, I guess this is how it's going to be because I'm in my 30s and I'm just not an athlete anymore.
Yeah.
And the medical world is the same. So it's another ask to the PCPs, OBGYNs, urologists of the world to, like, maybe come talk to those of us that every single day are using a skill set and a different level of knowledge that's attainable to now offer people a treatment protocol beyond just chronological age. Because one of the big questions is, why do traditional doctors miss the warning signs, right? And that's why. You're going to someone that doesn't even know what to look for.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're a strength conditioning expert, professional, you run a gym, whatever, if I call you to come look at my plumbing, what are you going to tell me? Well, screw it on harder,
Yeah.
right? Like, you'll use the skill set you have. Let me take this pipe off. I think I can break it, right? But you don't know how to do plumbing. The same way you go to a doctor who's been doing this chronological, dated, in terms of treatment protocol, driven care based only on that chronological time, they're not going to think about biological aging. It just doesn't work in their world. So I think that's the answer why doctors miss those warning signs. They just don't know.
The funny thing, it reminds me of the analogy is like, if you had 10 hours to cut down a tree, what would you do?
Yeah.
And the correct response is I'd
Call the tree guy.
I'd spend 8 hours sharpening my axe. As it applies to here, it's like, make sure that you're solving for the right problem.
Yeah.
And I think with the medical, no matter what, like, you went through 7 years of medical school, you went through your residency, you went through your fellowship, and it's like, most people come back and be like, well, my doctor does keto, so he told me I should do that.
Yeah.
So then he just totally obviates everything he's learned, or just dismisses everything about being objectively assertive and assessing, and then saying, well, I lost weight on keto, you should do it.
Yeah.
It's like, is that the problem?
Right.
He's eating too much fat or too many carbs? Like,
and that's an interesting take too, like the whole fad thing, right? Like, somebody said to me recently, I think I said this to you, like, what's your thing? And I'm like, what do you mean thing? And they're like, no, what's your gimmick? Like, are you a vegan, or like, what am I going to have to do if I sign up for this? Like, do I have to eat meat, or what am I going to do? And I was like, I really didn't know how to answer, because I said, well, myself and Mike are not like extremists on any of these things. We're just going to tell you, like, eat protein, eat carbs, eat fat, and just do it in the right amounts.
Yeah.
And work out. And then truly just listen to our blueprint, right? But the scary thing is, there's such a distrust had by the consumer that they got to feel like there's some gimmick, or there has to be something different, when really there's not. Can testosterone optimization really improve focus and work performance? This is a great question. What do you think about that?
A resounding yes.
Yeah.
I mean, my story is, I had long COVID that really kind of messed me up.
Yeah.
And the physical aspect aside, mentally, I felt like I aged like 20 years in 5 months. And it was a long time where I tried to explore other options, go through them, try them, whatever. But it really wasn't until I got on TRT where I felt like I can think again.
Yeah.
I have clarity.
Yeah.
I can assess things. I can not be as emotional
Right.
about looking at various parts of my life and being able to identify what I have to address next.
Right.
So for me, and we know this, that the brain has androgen receptors.
Yeah, tons.
So like, what is, and you could speak on this, what is the detrimental effects of not getting or stimulating those androgen receptors in your brain?
Right.
Drive,
Yep.
clarity, focus,
Decision making,
mental stability. Like, what are all the things that
Yeah.
test? Because people think of TRT and they're like, oh, muscles.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's a great benefit.
Yeah.
But it's not everything.
I mean, Stephen Hawking was an anomaly, right? His brain was perfect and his body was horrific. But if you end up looking at the normal population of people that lie within a bell curve, like, if your body is really bad at glucose use, if your body's insulin resistant, if your body's failing and breaking down, you know what, people? Honestly, you got to start to realize your brain is too. It is connected to everything, which is why there's so much new research happening in that GLP-1 world, because everyone looked at it as, okay, it's a really proven diabetic medication. So maybe we can use it to the advantage of weight loss. Great. Maybe we can use it to the advantage of insulin use, glucagon stimulation, all these other things. Great. The true take home is everything will affect your brain, right? So if something like that affects your brain, then we talk about the androgen stimulation, hormonal stimulation. The more you balance that and give your brain what you had when you were a kid, it brings to life the statement, if I only knew then what I knew now. Because imagine you have the brain power, excitement level, drive of like that 20-year-old with the wisdom and the knowledge of a chronologically aged 45 to 80-year-old.
Yeah, right.
That's a distinct advantage.
Huge.
With control over your emotions because you've gotten through the gamut. And we don't do the bodybuilding, behind the scenes where we block estrogen and make you into this like anabolic monster. That's not what we're going for.
Right.
We're actually going for health. And my whole goal here has nothing to do with put people on stages and win tournaments and competitions. I want to produce people that out there in the world professionally are dominating, right? And it happens constantly. And all of the responses from men are the same. It's pretty cool. So to answer that question, can it really improve focus and work performance? I get those answers every day where people say, my work environment, I'm on fire.
Yeah.
I get so much more done. I am so much more productive. We have a guy in here in the morning who runs a giant landscaping business. He's like, my business is on fire since I got myself in shape. Like everything's running better. It's a pretty cool thing to see when we're building, the mantra of the gym used to be like make monsters. And that sounds like it's only for athletes. But really, you got to encounter every day like that.
Yeah.
So to bring clarity to the statement, does testosterone or androgenergic stimulation help focus and clarity in your brain?
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
What do you think the number one mistake men make when trying to get healthy after the age of 40?
Oh, I mean, there's an abundance of things that they shouldn't do.
Yeah.
The first thing is just going extreme.
Yeah.
Which loosely defined as it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Because they'll go 3 weeks hard and then their deviation is 3 weeks worth of deviation. Right. So they just negated those 3 weeks. So, and I've heard this all the time where it's like, I'm going to do this thing for 4 weeks and then I'm going to eat and train sensibly. And I'm like, why don't we just eat and train sensibly now and do that for the next decade and see where we're at? And it really kind of takes the emotional response because, again, you have to deal with the psychology just as much as you have to deal with the physiology.
Oh,
right?
yeah, more.
And a lot of the people that we work with are like this type A, go get it. I want to take charge. It's like, cool.
Yeah.
We can do that, but we also have to have a plan to get you through the next 25 years of your life.
Yep.
And it usually means like we can go at whatever size of change or rate of change you want, as long as we can sustain those changes from a behavioral standpoint over a very long period of time.
Yeah.
So we can go out of the gates with our hair on fire. We just know we're not going to be able to do that forever.
Right.
Just like you can't diet forever, nor should you diet forever. And you should have some kind of feedback system, whether that's through your coach, your nutritionist, your doctor, of knowing when to change those things. So we're able to operate in real time and make those changes so that the body is always, for the most part, progressing at the ability of the end user can execute.
Yeah. You see this more in the gym world. I'm starting to see it in the medical world, which is pretty funny. And I use the analogy like once a blind man learns how to walk, the first thing he throws away is a stick. And it's kind of messed up. Right? Because in exercise world, you have to see a bunch of people that progress, get where they want to go. And they're like, I could do this.
Yeah.
Right. And you forget what got you there. Right. Like it was the programming. It was the training. It was the nutrition. It was the accountability. It was the
coaching, the guidance.
And then you get rid of that and you think you can do it on your own. And it's mind blowing to me to think that. Right. But in medical thing, the same thing. I've had a couple of people now be like, I don't want to do this anymore. And they quit. And some of the people in the office are like, oh, so-and-so quit. I can't believe it. Give it time. And the interesting thing in the medical end of it is they do try to do this on their own, and it is impossible. It's almost impossible for a doctor to take care of themselves on their own. Just go to a hospital and look around. Like all you need to do is check out the health of the doctors. So once they start telling you they can take care of you, just look at them and see how well they're taking care of themselves, right? But for the consumer in a place like this, I believe when you walk in our doors, you should in your brain have a commitment to health forever, right? Like we're not truly interested in the people that are like, I just want to get in shape for my trip. Like, great. Go wherever you want, take your injectables, do whatever you want to do for that trip. That's not sustainable. That's a yo-yo. That's why the world of diet marketing, the Ducans to the ketos to the paleos, all of these kind of fad trends that are pushed, that's why they exist.
Right.
Because it's so easy to convince a consumerism-driven economy to like consume something that's going to give them an instant change. And once they see that instant change, they're almost good for a couple months until they need something else.
Yeah.
But it's all kind of that marketing play. So my biggest thing for me, you answered it in terms of exercise, nutrition, going hard out of the gate and not being able to sustain it.
Yeah.
My biggest thing I want to say, the biggest mistake you can make is trying to figure out how you're only going to do this for a little bit of time just to get healthy. Like, you don't get healthy. You either become healthy and remain healthy, and you need to continue to increase your ability and effort put into health, or you don't get healthy. Like if you get healthy in 3 weeks and then regain that weight back and go back to where you were, nothing happened. Your transition was zero. You just started a business, made $1 bajillion, then went bankrupt, right?
Yeah, right.
That's not fun. So I don't know the true answer. I think people need to find a little bit of value in themselves. And I think that's the biggest question is, do you consider yourself worth a couple $100, right? Do you consider yourself worth a couple $1,000? Do you consider yourself worth $1 million? Because I can tell you, when doctors get sued for a procedure that would make the doctor a couple $100, they could get sued for millions. So clearly the world thinks a life independent of what it performs professionally and gives back to society is worth at least a couple bucks.
Yeah.
Right? So if someone came to me and said truly like, oh no, that entire program's unaffordable, I do want to almost start having a waiver where they have to sign that if they say that. And I get to send that to their life insurance company. Right? Because if you tell me you're not worth a couple $1,000 a year, or you're not worth a couple $100 here and there, or you're not worth time, then why would that life insurance company back you up, man? That's stupid. I should let them know that you don't even value yourself. Or if you drink every day, or if you're wild about your lifestyle and you have no regard for your health, like why should another company have to pay you or your family when you die? Like, you clearly didn't value your own shit.
Yeah, right.
So why should we? Last thing, and I think this is a really pertinent statement. It happens a lot. Online, there's offerings for everything. You go online and get whatever the hell you want. Remote, in person, this and that.
Yeah.
What do you think the advantages are actually getting labs done and having somebody relatively local to you involved in your healthcare?
There is something of great value to have confidence in the person that you work with. And I think that's another reason why the medical world is really falling apart, because people don't really have an actual relationship with their practitioner.
Right.
And I'm not saying you have to have one with everyone.
Yeah.
But I think when you're seeing someone that is local, that you can confide in and talk to and be real with, and never have the feeling like you're trying to get rushed out the door because you have too many questions.
Right.
I think that really is the most salient differentiator in what your medical practice looks like.
Yeah.
Objectively.
Yeah.
Subjectively, you can ask everyone. I mean, you talk about it all the time. People are amazed that you spend so much time with them.
Right.
You will spend more time in your first session than someone will spend for 5 years with their PCP.
Right. Right.
Once that that's not hyperbolic.
No, it's real.
That's real. So for them to understand that you're literally rooting for them.
Yeah.
And you're going to do everything that you can to make their life better, as long as they are meeting the criteria and putting the effort in. I think that is that is one of the biggest upsides of
Yeah.
having that relationship capital in their favor.
Yeah, I agree. Little story. We'll end on this. We don't have any good questions. We'll come up with a good game for the next one. But a little story which was interesting. And tell me what you think. It's a little nature versus nurture type situation. You know, we're involved in kids' sports quite a bit, and you go watch kids play. When you watch and you see how kids respond to an interaction, like somebody gets pushed, they fall down, they go to mommy. Somebody gets pushed, they fall down, they stand up, and they punch the kid. Those are two extremes, right? But if you watch that happening, do you feel like there's any predictive value as to what that child might end up becoming in terms of response to like oversight, even at that age, like the 5 to 10-year-olds? Because it's profoundly different how they all interact with each other, with the coach, and it's this really neat environment to see because hormonally these kids are still pretty charged up. Like a little dude, a little girl, like they're ready to go. Like some of them are on fire, some of them are not. Like, what do you think there's predictive value of that is? Any?
So we, again, you zoom out and you say, well, both of them had extreme emotional responses to some kind of stimulus. Right? Can we say one's right, one's wrong, what's better, what's worse? It's just that both of them expressed that emotion through their action.
Yeah.
I think making sure that that response is thought about so that they can better use that lesson to serve them in the future. And whether they ran to their mom or punched the kid in the face, if they were able to learn that like neither of them were the best result,
right?
But how do you channel that into making a determination of how to act in future consequence or future conditions?
And I bring that up just because I think adults are kind of the same, right? And there's some adults that get punched, they fall down and run to mommy and blame the world, or there's some that get punched, they're like, all right, I got to figure this out. They stand up and they quote unquote punch back with whatever that is. You know, I think I would ask everybody to open dialogue. I think talking about stuff is good. Most people agree upon the same goal. It's just a matter of how to get there. And listen, health is the same. I get provoked by local doctors constantly. And I do believe because they feel threatened, right? Because we are delivering something good, foundational. All we want you to do is be healthy. And male, female, adult, child, whatever age you are, our mission statement is truly just to get you healthy, right? Feel how you think you should feel. And I think we lose sight of that sometimes. There's so much chaos in the world around us. If you watch TV, I mean, think about the past 2 weeks, like you might think the world's actually ending, right? But if you remove yourself from that, you look inside your inner circle. And if you do surround yourself with the right people in the right environment, I think all of that becomes nothing. And it just becomes noise in a background that you realize you can avoid falling into the trap that they want you to feel, which is despair and the feeling like I need somebody else to save me. And I think the minute you start to feel like, oh, I need him to help me or else I can't do this, or I need that to help me, you've lost autonomy. And I think healthcare, exercise, nutrition, hormonal balance, feeling strong, feeling like you can pick shit up really empowers you to feel like you can take on the world. And I think that's kind of my entire drive emotionally, is to have people that are so resilient that they come in here and they're like, oh, you know, I don't know, my house burned down last week. I'm going to get a new house and I got a new job, right?
Yeah.
No problem. I'll get through anything. Any closing remarks?
Well, what you're talking about to me is just this aspect of reclamation. Because at one point, people really did feel good.
Yeah.
They felt good about their bodies, what they were doing, how they were moving, day-to-day stuff. And like, this is just maybe part of life as we know it now.
Yeah.
You forget that that's still possible.
Yeah.
And I think what we try to do is make sure that we can give you a plan. If that is what you want, we will get you there. But again, you have to be willing to put the work in. Just like anything else, like your marriage just doesn't become great overnight.
Right.
And if it is great, you have to do stuff to keep it great.
Yeah.
Just like your health. Like you can get to a healthy status objectively, subjectively, but guess what? You got to get up and do it again tomorrow.
That's right.
And you know, the things that you are most important or most worthwhile in life are things that you have to constantly dig at and work at and try to improve upon. That's life.
Love it. Listen, people, stay aggressively healthy. Mike Ranfone, Marco Lujic. Follow along if you have any questions Instagram, DM, email, whatever you need to do. Enjoy the weekend.